You know, the discussion that day that they got into on the group, it's actually an important discussion, to be fair. It's to do with things like, it's to do with this thing of marriages and registration processes. And there were a few people on there who were like imams, and they said, look, I feel that no masjid should conduct a nikah unless the people will register it as a civil marriage. So this is what they said. So I had opposed. Don't judge me, yaar. Don't judge me. Let me finish. So I had opposed the motion. I'd said, well, I strongly disagree. I believe in people's freedoms. Yeah. Educate people, and then people make their own choice. I said, you can't force people to register marriage. You can't force people to do anything. Force is wrong, categorically. So they said, well, what do you mean that this and this and this and this and this? I said, look, look, a nikah and a civil marriage are two separate things. Now, that's fine. If people want to register, they can. But to say that to do one, you must have, it's by force, you must have the other. Who gave you the authority to impose anything on anybody? So they said to me, so what are you advising? I said, I'm not advising anything. I'm saying that people are not kids. You know, you don't need to infantilize people. They are adults. They can make their own decisions. And they said, well, you know, oh, this leaves a lot of people. I said, look, you can say let's educate. You can say let's create an awareness. But I said it's not true. Why should I support? I said that, look, why should I support an authoritarian government kind of initiative to register things with the government? Why should I support that? Like, once a person, I would say people have their own choice. Once a person registers a marriage with the government, to leave that marriage will take you 1.5 years at least to leave. Let's say something didn't work, and I'm speaking to people all the time, their relationship doesn't work out. Now, these people have to go through a civil process of 1.5 to 2 years before they can call it quits. Who would want to do that? Why? Who are you to impose that on people? Most the British public does not do that. Most of the British public is not registered as married. So why should we be imposing it on Muslims? So the thing is, give people education, tell them what it is, and then let them choose. If some people may say, yeah, you know what, that's for me. I'm going to do that. Right, so other people can say, you know what, that's not for me. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like, you know, it's not to do with... And people say, well, look, people say that, oh, well, this doesn't then protect the woman's rights. Look, people, I'm all up for women's rights. Like all men, or like most old straight men, I too love women. Look, I'm always supporting women's rights. I'm supporting freedoms. I'm supporting things like this. But look, let's be honest, yeah. Let's not use false words. Let's not use false words. Let's be very honest. Like somebody phoned me and asked me a question about this. And they said to me, this is going a few weeks ago. And they said, look, you know, my husband's divorced me. I said, okay. They said, I want to know what my rights are. I said, I don't understand. They said, no, I want to know what rights does Islam give me. I said, I don't know what that means. What do you mean by right? So she said, you know, like rights? I said, well, like, okay, you have the right to freedom of speech. You have the right to freedom of movement. You have the right. So she said, no, duh, I know all of that. What rights does it give me here when I've been divorced? You have the right to remarry. Like, what do you mean? Like, I said, look, can we use Occam's razor and simplify? Can you use the real term of what you're trying to say and I can answer it. Are you just asking me how much money will you get? So she said, no. I said, okay, what are you asking then? She said, well, yeah, well, that as well. I said, अच्छा फिर मुद्दा पे आओ ना, अब बात करते हैं. We'll speak but let's speak खुल के बात करें. Let's speak clearly, because it doesn't sound nice when you say it like that. This is not nice because it sounds cruel, but it's the truth. The truth is that, look, you want to know, okay, how much money do I get? Okay, we've broken up. How much money do I get? Now, the question is that, look, I'm not saying you're not entitled to certain monies, and I'm not saying that. But this is what the question is. This is simply what the question is. How much money do I get out of this? And I do feel that if I'm going to be, legit, I do feel that that personally, that obviously, when it comes to separations, women, I do agree, even though I don't know whether some women agree with this, but I feel that women are better caregivers when it comes to children. They do take better care of them. And I feel that women should always have that prerogative, and they should take care of the children unless they're deemed a threat, which is different. And things like that are fine, but when it comes to supporting the child, I feel the father always has a right and an obligation to support the child. But that said, I do feel that the system is kind of heavily leaning against men, right? And it is kind of unfair. So you will see things like, so for example, there will be cases when I speak to many people, they're not allowed to see their kids at all. They have like a 5-year ban that you can't see your kid. There's no criminality involved. It's just because let's say the wife has said, oh, I'm afraid. So if he sees the kids, he might get the address through the kids. So I don't want any contact. So they will place a kind of block for, like, let's say up to 5 years. But the father will still have to pay. Now that's unfair. Like, it is heavily unfair. Things like this. So I feel that the system is heavily kind of crippled against men in general. Saying things like, look, when a person marries, that automatically a woman is entitled to half of what you own. I think it's ridiculous. And I'll be honest with you, I think that that's one of the most stupidest things that one could assume. But yes, I can understand if you generated something together over a long period of time, that both of you have the right of ownership to that. But to say by simply getting into a kind of agreement with someone, you own, oh, by the way, can I come stay over at your house? And, oh yeah, shall we just sign here? Oh, by the way, this is half my house now. Let me tell you something. Seriously, check this out. Now, somebody said to me, a lady said to me that, oh, but if that's the case, what do I get? I think she'd been married maybe 2 years or something, divorcing. She said, well, what does Islam give me? And I said, this was a different case. And I said, look, what does that mean once again? Do you mean money? How much money do you get out of it? Is that what you mean? Because people don't like it when it's very abrupt, because that sounds very unpolished. And so, they said, well, okay, what money do I get? I said, well, none, I said, well, it's not really fair. And I said, well, with all due respect, it's an egalitarian society. Get a job. Work. Like, if you want things, work for them. Like, if you don't want them, then... But you see, I don't get how everything is equal and then at the same time unequal. Now, check this out. This is not a lie. I had somebody speak to me. I'm not making this up. And look, I am 100% with... in supporting women in their rights. 100%. If a woman, for example... Let's say she was working, she was doing things, but she, she had a child. Now she's taking care of the child. She's at home. Now that's understandable, and that does make sense in what's going on. But like there was a case. Check this out. This person said to me, this lady said, "Look, I want to." She said, "I'm unhappy with my husband and I want to leave him." So I said, "Okay, all right." And she said, "Well," I said, out of curiosity, what are the issues? So she said, "Well, the issues are that I want a better car. I want a Mercedes. I want a semi-detached house. You know, I don't want to live in a regular terraced house. I don't want to have a regular phone. I want the latest iPhone. I don't want to have this. I want to have this." And wallahi, this is what she said. Like for about 60 seconds, she just ran a list. Like, I don't want this. I want this. I want to be driving in an Audi or a BMW or a Mercedes. I don't want a regular car. I don't want this. I don't want. And I was on the phone thinking, huh? I'm sorry, is this some kind of genie hotline where like your wish is? So I was like, okay. I was like, and what's your husband got to say about this? She goes, "Well, you know, he's not doing it. He's not buying me these things." I said, "If you don't mind me asking, do you work?" And she said, "Yes, I do." I said, "Well, more power to you." I said, "Well, do you mind me asking, what do you work as?" So she worked as some kind of something like a kind of like a teaching assistant or something like that, like an assistant. I was like, cha. Madame, should I change the Audi to a Rolls Royce? I was like, cha, Mia Yusuf. I bet. You know, what the hell? I was like, look, I was saying that, look, I said to her, "Look, what's your money is your money. Buy what you want. But obviously, if your relationship ain't working out, that's fine. You know, somebody could say, look, I just don't get on with this person anymore. You know, we've just drifted apart. That makes perfect sense. You know, you should not be forced to be in a relationship. You cannot be forced to be in a relationship against your will. You could be unhappy. You could be, you know, like, and these things are, you're absolutely right. If that's, you know, if you're living very unhappily, then taking a step to gaining closure is good. But if you're going to discuss with people and ask advice and say, well, look, and this is your list of problems, it's only really, you know, this was the only problem. It wasn't, she said, well, these are my only problems. Like, I want a flash car. I want, you know, a semi-detached property. I want this, I want this, I want this. She goes, oh, my mom said I'm just being, or I don't know whether it was a mom or whoever, they said I'm just being too materialistic. And I'm not entitled to an Islamic divorce. I said, look, the entitlement thing isn't, if you feel trapped in a relationship, it's your prerogative. But, you know, maybe your mother has some wisdom. Seriously, you know, it's, and so my point is that, look, I feel that we, you know, we're moving in a day and age where people want to impose a lot of things on other people. And we've got to let there be freedoms, you know, let people be free, let people mutually choose things. I think things like this, if they are important to someone, like, let's say, coming back to the divorce thing, they want things registered because they want a property, then I think, look, they can make these things clear in the beginning of a relationship, that, look, I would like this to be done like this, or I would like this, and they could kind of set it up like that. But I just feel that, you know, these things, it's unfortunate because these things ruin they taint the fabric of the relationship. So, yeah. Right, so let's take some